Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Podward State. I'm Matt Paolizzi.
I'm Sam Brungo. We got an awesome episode for you here. Our first guest of the new season, we got Penn State basketball legend DJ Newbill. He's calling in from 9 in the morning over in Japan. So, if you guys don't know DJ, he's played Penn State basketball in the early 2010s. He's from Philadelphia, played basketball at Strawberry Mansion High School.
Yeah, originally he didn't start out his college career at Penn State. He actually started at Southern Mississippi in Conference USA, where actually, was a standout freshman for the Golden Eagles. I think they're the Golden Eagles. If my NCAA 14 knowledge is on point. But yeah, so he was a standout for him. Actually made the all-conference freshman team. But then, he decided to transfer over to Penn State. So he sat out his sophomore season. Those were the transfer rules at the time. And he came to Penn State where he immediately was successful. He eventually finished his career 5th all time in total points at Penn State, which, having that 1 year cut out makes it even more impressive, I'd say.
Yeah, so after an impressive showing, he decided to go try to get drafted and had a short stint, played a little summer league for the Los Angeles Clippers. And then he turned into what ended up being a really cool story of just a international basketball journeyman. And, he played in a lot of different places: France, Turkey, Belgium, New Zealand, Poland, Australia, Russia. Now he's over playing in Japan. He's kind of balling out, It's just a really cool conversation. We're looking forward to sharing that with you guys. He talks about his journey in college, talks about growing up in Philly a little bit, talks a lot about Coach Chambers, and just really his story and playing in a bunch of different places, what that's like. Give some advice how he thinks Penn State team's looking now. So without further ado, guys, here's our conversation with Penn State men's basketball legend DJ Newbill.
DJ, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you guys doing?
Doing awesome.
So you're from Philly, started playing college ball at Southern Miss. Right. And then you transferred to Penn State after your freshman year. You got all freshman Conference USA honors your freshman year, and then decided to transfer. What led you to transfer, and how did you choose Penn State?
Southern Miss was a great place. I loved it down there. I had a lot of success on the court as a freshman early on. I think I played like 30 minutes a game down there, and our team was solid. And the coach Larry Stacy, which was the head coach, he was a great coach. I appreciated some of the lessons that he taught me. But I just think it was just time for a change. I felt like for where I wanted to go in my career, it was better for me to be at a different university at that time. And when I originally committed there, me and a friend of mine from high school, we both committed at the same time. But he was in JUCO and I was coming out of high school. So we decided to go there together. But he had some issues with JUCO. He didn't pass some classes, so it was kind of like our plan didn't work. And then also my mother had some health issues, so I wanted to be closer to home. Being that far away from home and my mom having those issues and me being a mama's boy, it was kind of tough for me being so young. So I was like, yeah, it was time for me to make the change.
Awesome. Yeah. So you sort of arrived at Penn State actually at an interesting time, I'd say, because that was sort of while, then Coach Pat Chambers was getting sort of established at that point. I think it was like, maybe his first full season, second full season. So at the start, what was sort of, you were getting used to playing at Penn State and getting used to the area. But how was it playing with Pat at that point?
My first year it was crazy. It was rough. Just because when Pat came in, he wanted to change the culture. So it was like everything just had to be like super detailed. Everything was super, like ran super with super intensity. Because he's a fiery guy, so he wanted to embed his personality on the program. So like we would have long workouts. We would run a lot. We would have like tough physical practices. And me sitting out was a gift for me because I got to kind of like just pick my spots and see where I was going to be able to fit in with the team and see what my role was going to be with the team. I'm obviously watching Tim. It was his junior year where he went first team all Big Ten and he had an incredible year. So just understanding that the next year that I was going to be playing alongside Tim Frazier and started to prepare myself for that. So me sitting out was definitely a blessing for me in that sense. But overall, man, like just playing at Penn State, just playing for Pat, it changed my life. A lot of the things that I've learned from him, I still use today. A lot of the things in my game that he's taught me, I still use today. So, I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about Pat. I even still talk to him to this day, even though he's not the current acting head coach. And we still have a great relationship and a great bond that I think that'll probably go forever.
Pat is a family friend of ours, so I feel the same way. He's an awesome guy. I love him and his kids and wish him nothing but the best. You mentioned playing with Tim. So growing up in State College, like I said, watching players like Tim and you, and then later Tony Carr, most recently Lamar Stevens, were like the face of the team. Like once Tim left, it was kind of your team. What was it like to be the guy for Penn State basketball during your time there?
It was fun. It was a lot of pressure, but I mean, I embraced it. It helped me grow as a man, as a person. You know, playing with Tim obviously took some of the weight off my shoulders because we can kind of like we both were captains his senior year, so we kind of like helped each other out. And then when he left, it was kind of like I had a lot of younger guys, but I also had better leadership from like Ross Travis, Kevin Montmooney, Alan Wisniewski. They all were seniors. It was just kind of a challenge for me. And plus because, you know, Penn State was so passionate at that time about basketball, just about sports in general, just because of all the things that went on off the court or off the field with the football program and things like that. So like, I feel like that a lot of the school kind of rallied around their sports teams and was really pushed for us to be successful and do well. So I just embraced it.
Yeah, your playing career didn't really intersect with Lamar Stevens at all. You were kind of already out by the time he was coming in. But I think the one thing that was really sort of the hallmark of Chambers' entire tenure at the helm at Penn State was sort of like this Philly pipeline, right? Bringing in all this talent from Philadelphia. You played high school ball in Philly, and then of course you had Lamar Stevens coming in from Roman Catholic, and guys like Tony Carr as well. So what was sort of the relationship between any Philly guys that were coming in, and how did Pat originally sort of deal with your crew coming in?
For me, once I announced that I was transferring, Penn State jumped right on me. Mm-hmm. And Pat started recruiting me, and I took a visit, and after my visit, when I got up there, it was like, I mean, y'all know how the campus looks. Campus is amazing. It was like I was coming from Southern Miss, a smaller campus. I came up there when I was with my family, and I was just like, man, this is it. But as far as just being a pipeline, I just think that a lot of guys who came after me saw how much success I had and how it went for me and just the relationship that I had with Pat and how he allowed you to be yourself on the court. He allowed you to, you know, if you were that guy, then he was gonna let you be that guy. He wasn't gonna hold you back. If you had dreams of going to the NBA or just play professional, he was pushing you towards that. He was super selfless in his goal to help, you know, raise young players or help young players become who they wanted to become. So I think a lot of players saw how successful I was and just like, man, like I want to try to do the same thing. It wasn't just me, you know, you could look at Tim. But I think that's what players saw. They saw my success. They saw how I enjoyed it. They saw how I embraced it. And they wanted to do some of the same things. And I think that Lamar and Tone, like they were incredible at it. They was able to do great things. And Lamar is playing in the NBA now. Tone Carr got drafted. I think that was big for the program, big for them as individuals, and big for our city. Just because a lot of guys, when I was growing up, didn't go to Penn State for basketball. I know a lot of football players, but just far as basketball, it wasn't really a popular thing to do.
Now I guess moving into your professional career, right? So you graduate Penn State, and like everybody else, you go for your shot at the NBA. First off, you sort of played in the Portsmouth Invitational, which is sort of like the oldest like amateur basketball tournament in the country, I believe, and it's a really popular destination for people who are trying to make their name among scouts looking to draft them for the NBA. You have legends like Scottie Pippen, who's well known for making his mark in Portsmouth. So what was that experience like?
Man, that experience was fun, man. I got a chance to play with a lot of guys who I've watched from afar during my season, like other seniors that was like, kind of doing their thing, winning games, scoring a bunch of points, and just putting on for their universities. And my team, we was kind of stacked. We won a championship, but we were stacked. Like we kind of knew going into it, like this is gonna be our team. We most likely going to win the championship or at least play in the championship. And I had Anthony Carter as my coach. He was I remember him playing for the Denver Nuggets with Carmelo and Allen Iverson. So it was like, man, when I saw him as my coach, I was just like, man, like this dude should probably know what he's talking about because he played with some dogs in a good era. So I was just like, I was excited to be in that that area with all those great players and great coaches. And it was good to be able to win a championship when I was down there.
Awesome. Yeah. So sort of after that, stint with the Clippers in the summer league, you began your overseas career, right? And you started off in France with Asvel Basket in Lyon. So what was that? Because that's sort of, your first experience playing pro ball, especially overseas too. It must have been a different experience. So what was it like that playing in Lyon?
That was just like kind of like a culture shock.
Yeah.
I'm coming from just coming from the States, and just people don't understand when you play overseas. It's like once you get there, you're there. Like you're committed there. Like they're not like they consider you as a grown person. Like they're not babysitting you. Like they're dropping you in the city. They're making sure you have a way to get around, making sure you have your apartment, everything is straight, make sure you got your Wi-Fi, and then you're kind of like have to figure it out. So but I was fortunate enough to have some great vets who've been playing for a while to help me out. I had David Lighty, he was a Ohio State guy. So we had like a Big Ten connection. We used to always just talk trash about Penn State, Ohio State. So he was one of my vets. I mean, he was at Asvel for a while, so he kind of like helped show me the ropes. We had Trent Meacham. He went to Illinois. And one of our coaches, man, I can't think of his name, but he went to Northwestern. So we had kind of like a little Big Ten connection there. But it was definitely a culture shock. But playing in France was dope because the competition was crazy. I was playing against dudes who I was like, man, these dudes could easily be in the NBA. A lot of those dudes over there it was a real physical and athletic league. It was super professional. But I wound up leaving there and going to Turkey and finishing up that season in Turkey. So my first year was a journey. It was a journey, but it was times where I kind of felt like, man, I was like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this, not overseas. Like I got to find a way to get to the NBA. But now I'm enjoying it. I embraced it. I kind of matured and kind of just opened up, broadened my horizon, and started thinking outside the box, and just learning a lot about different cultures. And so I appreciate it now.
Was Tony Parker the owner at the time when you were playing for Asvel? Or did that come later?
Yes. No, he was the owner.
Did you ever talk with him or meet with him at any point?
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. Before his training camp, he came down and we did like a media thing in the mall. And it was just like the way that people reacted to him was crazy. Like he's like Michael Jordan of France. Like we walking through the mall, and then suddenly just a crowd of people just get behind us and literally just cheering. The Asvel chair, and we just he spoke to the crowd, and everybody was there really to see the team and to see him, and anything you needed in Lyon, that was the city's name. Just say you play for Tony Parker's team and it's done. Like I'm talking
Awesome.
about anything. Like if you want to go certain places shopping, if you want to get into the nightclubs, anything like that. I play for Asvel, and then the Dordas Tony Parker team. All right, you good?
Awesome. Yeah. So you spent half the season there, and then you moved to Turkey, and then you went to Belgium. How long did you play there, and what was your experience playing in Belgium?
I originally signed a 2-year deal in Belgium, but I wound up only playing 1 season there.
Gotcha.
My experience there was cool. I played with another American named Corey Walden, who's currently still overseas now. I think he's playing in the Euro League, so that's the highest level in Europe. But we won. Our team was stacked too. We had like 6 dudes from the national team on our team. My backup was the national team starting shooting guard, so
Wow.
it was like our team was just stacked, and we won everything. And it probably was the easiest money I made overseas just from our team being so stacked. And we just kind of like just ran through the league. It was fun though. Belgium was cool.
Awesome. So after Belgium, that was when you made your move down to the NBL, where you started in New Zealand. But before we get there, what was your experience playing in Europe overall? You sort of got a lot of different looks. You played in France, played in Turkey, played in Belgium. I think the stereotype for like, EuroLeague, European basketball, at least for, American fans when they hear about it, is sort of like, oh, they don't play hard. All they do is just shoot threes. They're kind of soft. And in terms of game, the stereotype is, lots of spacing, again, lots of threes, not a lot of interior play. But again, that's sort of the way that the NBA has since moved. So what was sort of your experience overall playing in Europe? Did it sort of, support those, I guess, stereotypes in certain ways? Like what was going with it?
No chance. A lot of people think overseas is a cakewalk. It's not. I mean, you got to think about it though. You got a guy like Luka Doncic, right?
Yeah.
His last year overseas, he averaged about 11 points a game. He goes to the NBA, he's averaging 30.
Yeah, MVP.
He said it himself, like it's easier to score in the NBA than it is overseas. You look at a guy like Giannis. We just watched him play in the Olympic Games last year, and he struggled. But in the NBA, it's 40s, it's 30s every night. You know what I mean? So like, dudes. I don't think you have to actually play to see how physical it is and how detailed it is, and it's definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy. Like I don't think not one guy who played overseas would tell you that overseas is a cakewalk. There's a reason why. Like I mean, people look at the USA teams and see how they play against a lot of the overseas teams.
Oh yeah.
Like, but you're talking about the best stacked on one team. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to beat a LeBron, Melo, Kobe, like these guys. Like there's not many people can beat them on the same team. The NBA, no matter where you at in the world, like these guys are incredible. But as far as like just the talent level and everything overseas, it's like it's EuroLeague is definitely tough. It's physical. A lot of the players are specialists. That'd be the difference. Like some of them just going to be knockdown shooters. Some of them are just great passers. Some bigs, just great at setting hard screens and rolling. Like, so it's a lot of role players mixed in with like some superstar play.
Yeah, and I think the environment too is a lot different in terms of like fan involvement and everything. I guess it's much similar to soccer and all that. Like I think I just saw a video on Twitter where they're showing like, I think it was a Greek team or whatever, and they're showing the fans before the game, and they're like doing all these chants and everything, and it's super loud. Sure. The fans are getting hype. Like, what's that environment like?
Man, like it's crazy. I remember my first year I was in Turkey, and I can't remember the team name we played against, but when we won, the fans were so mad because we came back down from like 18 in the fourth quarter. The fans were so mad they actually started like throwing stuff onto the court, and like we had to get escorted out like with the shields by like the security. Like they don't like they take their sports serious. Like that's like some of the most diehard fans I've ever been around. So and then the fan support just be so dope. Like they'll write you on your social media. They see you in public. They'll send you gifts. When you guys are playing well. Like so, it's definitely the fan support is definitely all that overseas.
Yeah, so after your, experience, your first experiences playing over in Europe, you moved over to the NBL in Australia.
Right.
Well, the first team you played for was the New Zealand team that's in that league, the New Zealand Breakers. So what was that transition like, moving to, not just to an entirely new league, but, an entirely different continent?
It was a relief because they spoke English. I was in a few places where they did speak English, and but that helps a lot, being in an English-speaking country. But driving on the other side, that right there was different for me.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah. Just everything is kind of backwards over there. Like, well, not backwards, but just reverse from the States. But you'll be surprised, like, they do a lot of things like the States. So it wasn't hard adjusting at all. And I think that's why that was kind of like the season where I kind of blossomed into like the pro I was going to be. Because I was up and down before I went to New Zealand, as far as how I was playing like as a pro. But then once I got there, I kind of felt like I was back at home playing. New Zealand had a inner city that kind of like reminds me, like they downtown reminds me like of New York. Just, I mean, not as crazy, but just kind of like how the buildings are set up and how the stores and everything is set up, and some of the restaurants they have there remind me of New York. So that kind of like had me like I was like at home feeling, and I kind of like blossomed, and I had a breakout year that year, and then it's just been kind of up from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you started playing in New Zealand, then you would eventually move to the Cairns Taipans. Did I say that right?
Cairns Taipans. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Cairns Taipans.
Yeah, and sort of in between there at times you had little stints in Poland and in Russia. Anything big from those two? I know those were kind of shorter experiences in Poland and Russia, but again, sort of back to Europe. What were those two teams like?
Well, the reason why I did that is because the European season is 10 months. Well, 9 to 10 months, depending on if you make the playoffs. And the Australia season is 6 months. Well, like 5 in 3 weeks if you don't make the playoffs. So it was still kind of like, all right, I can go home, do nothing, or I could just go to Europe and just continue playing for another couple months, make some more money, get some more exposure. So that was kind of why, like, after I left New Zealand, I went straight to Poland. It was cool because I was on a team that was a good team. We won the 3rd place medal. And over there is like if you finish in the top 3, it's a celebration. So we won 3rd place, and we're popping champagne, we're celebrating. It's a big parade. It's it's like literally like a big parade through the cities. Like, so that was fun. And then the next year I'm in Cairns, and it was cool because Cairns was the tropics. It was hot all year down there. So literally on Christmas, I'm on the beach somewhere with my feet in the sand. There's no snow down there. And the town is small, so they kind of rally around just basketball. I don't think there's that's the highest sports level team in the city of Cairns. So they rally around basketball. Everybody knows you. It's kind of like being in college. Anything you do, you got to watch what you do because it'll get around quick. But the fans there was amazing. I met some amazing people there, which is why I stayed there for 2 years. I could have left, but it was just like, man, like this is just. I had too much of a good situation there. I played with a fellow Big Ten guy, Melo Trimble, who played for Maryland. He was there with me my first year. So yeah, man, Cairns was definitely probably my favorite spot that I've played as a pro. And I still check up on the team now. I still talk to the coach there. I still talk to some of the fans there all the time. And yeah, man, it was definitely a great experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, Australia definitely has a pretty big basketball culture, I'd say. And I mean, even, all the coaching names that have, had stints there, all the players that have been coming from there recently, as well. I mean, I'm a Sixers fan, so, Brett Brown coming in, having his coaching experience there, and Ben Simmons obviously as well. So how has that sort of basketball culture been growing in Australia?
It's just getting bigger and bigger. Since I started with New Zealand till till now, it's kind of like they've done a great job at just promoting it and putting money into the league and finding different creative ways to get the league more exposure. Like last year, they embedded the Next Star program, which is why like you seen guys like LaMelo Ball, RJ Hampton, and guys of that sort be able to come over there and instead of going to college and play a season there and then enter the draft and get exposure and still be able to develop and further their career without going to college, without, because I mean, it's this whole thing now that a lot of players don't want to go to college. They want to go straight pro. So I think Australia did a great job at giving them a landing spot. It's far from home, but like once you're over there, it's like they speak English there. It's easy to get around. The people love you. Everybody knows you. They love basketball. So anywhere you go, you're treated like a celebrity. I'm sure it wasn't too much of a culture shock for the young guys. So I think Australia's done a great job at that, and I think it's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I was going to mention too. You were, in the league when LaMelo Ball played those games before he got injured. I think over there. Did you ever play against them or?
Yeah, we played against them 4 times. I think one of the times he didn't play because after a while it was kind of like I'm solidified as top 3. So let's just shut it down. No need to keep playing and risk injuries or anything like that. I mean, at that time, you reached your goal. You came over there to showcase that you can play at the pro level. You've done that. There's no need to risk it all for playing the NBL, especially when like his team, they wasn't playing for like the playoffs or anything like that because they had some injuries. It was him, Aaron Brooks, and Josh Boone. They all was ex-NBA guys, and Aaron Brooks went down with an injury. I think he tore his Achilles. And Josh Boone, I think he did something to his face, like fractured his face, something like that. So they had a lot of injuries, but when they was full strength, though, they were a really good team. They were tough, but playing against them was crazy because the crowd was coming to see him. Everybody, it was all a bunch of hype around the game, bunch of media attention. So it was definitely fun.
And you won like the defensive player of the league last year, right?
Yeah.
So did you put the clamps on him at all?
I guarded him a few times, but he wasn't. He was my matchup a few times, but he wasn't my sole matchup. Before Aaron Brooks went down, I was matched up with Aaron Brooks, and then they had like some good Aussie guys who can score a lot. But we'll be matched up a few times though. But a few times I definitely put the clamps on him.
There you go. Can't let the young guy have it easy coming over to Australia.
No, not at all.
Awesome. Yeah. So your last season in Australia, was pretty successful. Like Sam mentioned, won the Defensive Player of the Year. And that's when you made the jump to Japan. So again, moving all over the place, starting in Europe, going to Australia, and now you're over in Japan, where you're playing currently for Osaka Evessa. So I'm guessing you're playing in Osaka in Japan?
Yep.
Cool. So just flat out, what's that experience been like playing in Japan so far? Another new country, but how's it been?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I really had my mind set on going back to Australia, but with the COVID, they had some rule change and budget cuts, and it was just kind of like, it's kind of a lot for a guy in my position. They cut it down from 3 imports to 2 imports, and they cut the budgets by 50%. So that was kind of like it's tough to have a season like I had, and work as hard as I worked that year, where I was second team All NBL, Defensive Player of the Year, averaged 19 points, played well. My team was successful. To take a pay cut the next year, it was kind of like just didn't work out. But then Japan just came along out of nowhere. I've never thought I was going to be able to play in Japan because this is actually the first year they allow guards, or like they usually do big men over in Japan, like because a lot of the good Japanese players are guards. So this was actually the first year that they're experimenting with having guards over here, and man, Japan is definitely an interesting place. I'm in Osaka, so I kind of lucked up where I still have a city feel, and they still, a lot of people here speak English. or they understand it at least. And the town is big. They have a little bit of everything. But we traveled some places where I was like, man, we in Japan. Like, we played some games in like some areas. I was like, man, it's tough here. But I'm not that far from Tokyo, so literally probably like an hour and 40-minute train ride. So I've been to Tokyo a few times. And yeah, man. But overall, man, I'm liking Japan. I'm liking playing out here. I'm loving the league. It's real physical and aggressive, and most likely I'll definitely stay out here for at least 2 more seasons minimum, and then we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, everything works out contract wise, and teams, won't want me to come back. But I'm definitely I'm enjoying my time here.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess, you mentioned how, COVID affected, your decision to move to Japan from Australia. What's it been like playing in Japan so far, just in the middle of this pandemic? Like, how have they been going through it? How's it looking over there? It was smooth first, for like my first couple months over here. I came over in September. But maybe like last month, early this month, there was kind of like a spike in the cases in Tokyo, which is obviously the main city where everybody travels through. So they kind of been a little more strict. Everything is kind of like just closing early. So a lot of places not allowing you to dine in, but you can take out. But like far as how they handle it in the league is we haven't had to cancel any games, and it was like, man, like the way they're handling it is great, because for us to not cancel any games and we have fans in the stands, I would say that their method is kind of successful. But we take COVID tests like every other week. We come in every morning, take our temperatures. They don't monitor like what we do or where we go, but they just give us suggestions on, where not to go, or where to be careful if we do have to go to certain places. But I'm fortunate. I live in an area where literally it's a 5-minute walk to the grocery store, 5-minute walk to a couple different shops. So I don't really have to go far. I could just walk, go what I got to do, come back in the house, and kind of just hang out around my apartment.
Obviously, every kid that grows up playing basketball, their dream is to play in the NBA. But you've kind of taken this route that is like an overseas journeyman. You've played in 8 different countries. So what has all this traveling taught you, and how do you think that has made you a different person?
Just learning about different cultures and how people live, and their values and morals, and growing up for me, I'm from Philly, so I'm from the inner city. So my brain was kind of on a smaller scale. I never thought I'd be playing overseas. I never thought I'd even go overseas. Then obviously going to Penn State was, it's a big school but a small town. You know what I mean? So, but being able to just travel all these places and get to meet different people from different walks of life, man, like I've learned to just appreciate it and embrace it. And I'm just grateful for my journey. Of course, the NBA was my goal, but I think when I really just locked into the position I'm in, and embrace the fact that I get to travel, I get to play overseas, I get to still be a professional, I still get to make money doing something that I love to do. I just kind of like, man, I enjoyed it, and it just taught me that when you step outside of your comfort zone, it can be a great thing for you. Because I feel like I wouldn't have it any other way right now. Looking in hindsight, like when I first came out of college and I didn't make the NBA, I was kind of like down. I was kind of upset about it. I kind of was like, man, if I'm not making the NBA, I don't know if I still want to play basketball. But now it's just kind of like, man, like I'm going to embrace this journey as long as I can, as long as my body allowed me to.
Yeah, so mention all the places you played, all the different leagues, different rules too, I'm assuming, in certain places. So have you had to like adapt your game at any point, moving from place to place? Like, is playing in France different than playing in Japan or Poland or Australia?
Yeah, when I first went to France, they were really strict on travels. So like in America, like you're triple threat, like you can like jab and go and things like that. But when I was in France, you had to literally put the ball down before you make any movements. Like you couldn't move your feet at all before you put the ball on the ground. And I was getting called for a lot of travels my first year over there. Um, the physicality of it, in any league overseas, where you get to you'll drive to the basket and you'll get hit. They just like, yeah, no call. And you be like, huh? And then you look at the NBA, it's like, man, like if you sneeze on a guy, it's like, yeah, they getting two foul shots. So that's what I'm saying. Like the physicality of the game is a lot different. And then just understanding that overseas is more structure. It's not a bunch of ISO basketball. It's not a bunch of one-on-one. You're not taking 30 shots. Not in the top leagues on top teams. I mean, maybe if you're in a team that's like it's not good and you're just trying to move up, yeah. But for the most part, for the top teams, like you're playing with 5 or 6 other dudes who is just as good or can score or vets. So like you have to learn how to be more efficient and just understand the aspect of team basketball. Like me, I was at Penn State. I always had the ball in my hands. I was always the guy who was making the decision. And then, I went a few years where I was the second guy or the third guy sometimes, or sometimes I was even the fourth guy or the fourth option. So just kind of adapting to understanding that like basketball world is a lot bigger than just college or the NBA. It's a broad world of players who are just as good as a lot of guys in the NBA. Just some things didn't work out.
Do you still keep up with Penn State basketball?
Of course.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on the current state of the program and how the team's looking?
I love the way it's going. I think we're just bringing in more and more talent. I was kind of surprised by the departure of PC, Coach Chambers. But I think that the team or the program will continue to just rise. And I just love watching the young guys and how much passion they play with and the pride that they play with. Of course, one of the Philly guys that I watched closely is Sam Sessions, that just transferred in. He was kind of a guy who I've heard a lot about him, but I met him this summer and we chopped it up a few times and we just talked about it. I talked about Penn State and my experience there and what to expect. And so he's one of the guys that I kind of watch close. But a lot of the guys like Seth, I love the way Seth play. Myron, yeah, man. I'll be excited watching them guys. I remember Ben, putting that jersey on. Sometimes I'll be like, man, I wish that I could jump in and play with these guys. Like just watching this sometimes, man. So I'll be like, man, like they're just bringing the excitement to the program, and yeah, I'm enjoying watching it.
DJ, once again, thank you so much for joining us, man. This was really cool to talk with you about. As a kind of a basketball nerd myself, it was awesome to sort of dissect all the international stuff that doesn't get talked a lot about.
Yeah, man, no problem, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys. I'm glad we was able to figure it out with the time change. Hopefully you guys continue on with this platform and can get more guys to come on and share their experiences.
And that, folks, was our awesome conversation with DJ Newbill. I was super excited for this interview, and it definitely did not disappoint. It was so cool to talk with him, just hearing his journey and everything, how, he went to Penn State and sort of had this, tour of the world, basically, from, a basketball player's perspective. And just hearing, all the experiences he had, I thought was so cool. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Because I think, Sam, it's a tale that isn't really told a lot, with basketball and really, most professional sports here in America. But, for basketball, it's just, the NBA or nothing. We sort of hear about maybe foreign leagues of like, a Luka Doncic type player, Dirk Nowitzki, comes over here. We're like, oh, all the European players, they play the same, yada, yada, yada. LaMelo Ball, became well known for playing over in Australia for a bit. So I thought it was super cool to hear that, just such a different perspective and to really hear what playing overseas is like, and that the NBA isn't the only thing out there.
Yeah, and you said that was cool for you because you're a basketball nerd, but for me that was also really cool because I grew up actually watching DJ play. I watched Penn State basketball. Me and my dad had tickets, so we'd go watch DJ play. So it's just a cool conversation, real cool, laid back guy, pretty damn good at basketball too. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.